Autism is one of the most costly developmental disabilities. So the problem that we face is that the lifetime societal cost for one child with autism ranges from $1.4 to $2.4 million. And much of that cost goes towards therapies, special education, and adult care. And most adults with autism now do not have a job. We need to do better with the next generation. Diagnosing autism can be difficult because there's not a medical or blood test yet for autism. The diagnosis is based on observable features. Now, the media has portrayed characters that have helped public awareness of autism. And so we have Rain Man that came out in the 1980s, Forrest Gump in the 1990s. Our more contemporary characters, Sheldon and the Good Doctor, in this generation now, in this decade now. The problem is that these are extreme characters, all of them, from Rain Man to the Good Doctor. And so they're not helpful for the public to really understand what autism is, or for parents to know what the early signs might look like. Now, the recent prevalence estimates reported by the CDC have been increasing, and the most recent are 1 in 59. If you have more than 59 friends, then it's very likely that at least one of them will have a family member with autism. So let's do the math. If you have 1,000 friends, how many will have a family member with autism? 17. So it's really important for you to share information with your friends about autism. It's been more than a decade since the American Academy of Pediatrics recommended screening all children for autism at 18 and 24 months. We can diagnose autism at that age. And yet, the average age for diagnosis in our country still hovers at 4 to 5 years. Let's think of another health condition. Imagine if childhood leukemia was diagnosed at 4 to 5 years, and yet we were able to make the diagnosis at 1.5 years. You would think that is alarming. Why is it not alarming that we're not detecting autism early? The research that we've been doing at the Florida State University Autism Institute has focused on improving early detection. We've developed 2 new screening tools, one of them based on parent report, the other on observational signs. We've screened now over 30,000 children with our parent report tool, and we've brought in and evaluated over 8,000 children and studied the videos that we've recorded of observations of them. We've identified 22 red flags of autism from this research that we can detect under 2. If you're going to screen and diagnose autism early, then you need to have a good, meaningful intervention to get started right away. So we've also developed the early social interaction model, which is a new intervention model teaching parents how to provide early intervention for their child right at home. And with all of these videos that we've collected, we have developed a new tool called Autism Navigator with funding from the state of Florida. And we have developed a collection of courses for both professionals and parents. And they're all online, so they're accessible to everyone, anywhere, anytime. The early signs of autism can have a cascading effect on brain development. The symptoms unfold over the first 2 years of life. And this can lead to very significant social, language, and cognitive deficits, as well as challenging behaviors, if they're not caught early. Our solution is to teach you and everyone the early signs using the unparalleled collection of videos and photos that we have collected in our research, with, of course, parent permission. So what does autism look like in a toddler? So I want to share with you a new lookbook that we have just launched called 16 Early Signs of Autism by 16 Months. And this is designed for parents especially, but for anyone to learn these signs. It should be easy for you to get your baby to look at you, because babies are motivated to be near you, to look at your face and linger on your eyes. If it's hard to get your baby to look at you, this may be an early sign of autism. Babies readily share enjoyment and look at you and smile. Some children with autism smile to show they're happy, but they don't share their enjoyment. Others show little facial expression or flat affect and rarely smile, so you may not know when they're happy. If your baby rarely shares enjoyment with you, especially when you're available to interact, this can be an early sign. Babies readily share their interests with you with gestures and sounds. If your baby rarely shares their interests with you, this can be another early sign. Babies are tuned to listening to your voice. When you call their name, they should look at you. If your baby rarely responds to their name, this can be an early sign of autism. Babies learn to use gestures and sounds to draw your attention to things they're interested in between 9 and 16 months. An early sign of autism is limited use of gestures, especially showing and pointing. Babies should readily use gestures and sounds and look at you to let you know what they want, what they don't want, and what they're interested in as they're learning to communicate. If it's hard for your baby to look at you and use a gesture and sound all at the same time, this can be an early sign of autism. Babies learn to imitate and copy you, and watch what you're doing and copy you by about 13 months of age. And then they learn to use a variety of objects and begin pretending. Children with autism may have strengths in using objects in solitary play. If your child is showing little imitating of others or pretending, then this can be another early sign. Children are learning a range of gestures from 9 to 16 months: giving, showing, reaching, waving, pointing, shaking their head, nodding their head. Babies with autism are late in using gestures and often use unusual ways to communicate. If your baby is moving or pulling your hand or body part as if it's a tool, this can be an early sign of autism, especially if they're not looking at you. Babies are very interested in getting your attention and using objects as a strategy to get you to look at them and interact with them. If your baby is more interested in objects than people, this can be another early sign. Babies with autism may show unusual stiffening or flaring of their fingers or posturing of their body, and this is another sign to look for. Babies with autism can repeat unusual movements with objects, like wobbling and spinning and knocking over and rolling and lining things up, or other repetitive actions that are unusual for their age. Babies learn to flow with interaction and develop morning, nighttime routines. Children with autism may develop rituals, and they may be unwilling to complete a series of behaviors in a different way. If your child insists on certain things being the same and gets very upset about unexpected change, this can be an early sign of autism. Babies are very interested in getting attention of people. So what we see them do is readily shift their attention from objects to people and back, flexibly. Babies with autism may show excessive interest in particular objects or activities and can get stuck or overly focused on certain objects. Babies with autism can have this excessive interest on particular objects, and so they can often learn to use some objects really well, like building with blocks or learning the shapes of numbers and letters, and this can be missed as a sign of autism. If your child shows excessive interest on particular objects or activities, this can be an early sign of autism. Babies with autism can be very focused on or attached to certain objects, and these may be very unusual for their age. So they may be interested in long strips of cloth, utensils, chains, sticks, rocks, flowing water. And so these may be an early sign of autism. Unusual reactions to sound or sights or textures is another early sign of autism. And so a child with autism may get upset about a tag on their shirt or sticky, gooey things that are on their hands. If your child shows unusual reactions to sound, sights, or textures, this can be an early sign. And number 16, babies with autism can show unusual strong interest in unusual sensory experiences, such as rubbing certain textures or looking out the side of their eye at objects closely. Any one of these signs may not be a problem alone, but in combination they may signal a need to conduct a screening or diagnostic evaluation. As a general guide, if your child shows 4 of these early signs, use our online screening tool. If they show 8 of these early signs, ask your doctor or teacher for a referral for a diagnostic evaluation. And to quote Jacoby's mom, it's going to be a problem eventually that you'll have to deal with. Don't be afraid. Don't let that stop you from helping your child. So let's see what you learned. Here's Elby at 20 months. I want to see if you can notice any early signs of autism.
Did you get it out? Did you get it out?
Now that you've been learning about the features of autism, watch Elby, who's 20 months old, and see if you can find any early signs of autism.
Down there, all gone. Spoon's all gone. Oh boy, now what you got? Whisk? Whisk. Whisk. That's a whisk. Whisk. Whisk.
What signs did you notice? He didn't look at his mom. Good. What else? He wasn't sharing his interest, but he was interested in the whisk, which is unusual for his age. Didn't use gestures, sounds, didn't share enjoyment. Very good. He actually showed 11 early signs in 45 seconds. Research shows that children with autism need 25 hours of good quality early intervention to reach their potential. And they need to be engaged in meaningful activities and doing something productive. Our challenge is that our early intervention system usually provides 1 hour a week of early intervention. So you're not going to be able to provide the intensity needed and to really make a change in most states in our country. We think part of the solution is to build consensus with families on their role in early intervention. So this 1 marble represents an hour that you have with the early interventionist a week in Florida or in most states. This 167 marbles represents the number of hours that are going to go by before the interventionist comes back next week. And so this shows us that what really matters is the time between intervention sessions. So in our early social interaction project, we designed the model to teach parents how to interact with their child during all these activities that they're already doing every day, but how to support their child's learning if their child shows early signs of autism. So I want to show you Elby, starting with 20 months, when you first met him, and real quick glimpse of what he looks like up to age 5.
I just remember sort of feeling in denial and emotionally distraught and angry. We just did not know what to expect.
Oh gosh.
Once you actually learn how, you can do so in every single function of your daily life. Cooking, doing laundry, feeding the dog, cleaning the house.
Elby's turn, that's right.
your child can be right there helping you do things, and you can make it fun for them. It's kind of awesome.
A little more than that, I think. More soap, please. More soap, please. More soap, please. How do we play this game? This is how you play this game.
Do you have to take off?
Water.
Oh, you go in the water. And then swim in the water.
And then you come out and out the water and eat them. Like that? Yeah.
Oh, okay, let's start over. Let's do it again. Ready?
So I hope that illustrated for you the potential of parents impacting their child's development and learning at a time when the brain is developing at an amazing rate and the environment has the greatest potential to impact more than any other time in the child's life. So here's what I need you to do. I need you to visit a new website that we just launched last week. Visit it and share it with any family you know, with doctors, with anyone you know, and hopefully everyone you know. Babynavigator.com. It has information about the early signs of autism that I shared with you today. It also has information about early learning for all parents. You can get to our screening tool, you can get to our lookbooks, you can get to video illustrations of development in all children to get children ready for preschool, and you can also see video illustrations of early signs of autism. And we have a whole video online course for families if they suspect their child has autism. So I want to thank you. Please visit babynavigator.com.